What's up, gamers? Papa Jump Love here. We're gonna go over some deck profiles today. I've got a bunch back to back to back. Got a really big event coming up this Saturday, and so I wanted to, show off a bunch of decks, give some people some inspiration. Come up with something that you can play at the WOTC20 2024 Lake of Rage. So first up, we've got damage swap. So starting off with the Pokemon, I've got 4 copies of Cleffa. We already know this this is a staple in the WOTC20 format, so not really like a big explanation needed there. Next up is 3 copies of this Onyx. I know the most popular Onyx in the format is the Southern Islands Onyx. I chose to go with this Onyx because of the Rage attack, which we can get into a little bit later. But yeah, so we're running 3 copies of Neo Genesis Onyx, and then we're going into 3 copies of Neo Genesis Steelix. Reason why I chose this Steelix was for the higher HP count. Gives you a little bit more flexibility, just a very small amount more flexibility with damage swap. And being able to later use the Rage attack from the previous evolution. So not too much to write home about. It's nice that, for a double colorless energy, you're able to deal 20. And then for a double colorless and a metal, you're able to consistently deal 30, and on a coin flip, if heads, you can deal 50. So it's solid damage output, but you're getting a lot of crazy defense with this deck because of the metal energies combined with the damage swap aspect of the next Pokemon lineup that I'm going to show. So the next line is Abra, Kadabra, and Alakazam. So we chose this Abra from Expedition. This Abra just is solid. We're not using any Psychic Energy, which is the reason why I didn't choose the one that reduces its retreat cost by having a Psychic Energy attached. I suppose Rainbow Energy gets the job done, but they're not really there to attack at all. They're just bench warmers. We're just getting to Alakazam so we can get that amazing Pokemon power. So this Abra also has 40 HP compared to the base set Abra with only 30 HP. Next is this Kadabra, just a really good amount of HP. And again, it's not really here to attack, but for 1 energy, you can put the defending Pokemon to sleep with, what is it, Nightmare? So not on a coin flip, just puts it to sleep, and it has 70 HP, only 1 for the retreat cost. And then we've got 3 copies of this Alakazam. So it's a 3-2-3 line, because we're also running a copy of Breeder. We have a couple ways to search it out, so we're able to do that if we need to. But the damage swap Alakazam, so essentially as often as you like during your turn before you attack, you're able to move damage counters from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon as long as it doesn't cause that Pokemon to get knocked out. So you can take a bunch of damage on your Steelix, which would be reduced by metals and then metal energies, and then you're able to move that damage to somewhere else, so you can just keep taking the hits with your Steelix as long as you're able to keep the Steelix up. Next, for the damage, for the Pokemon that we're moving the damage onto is this Chansey. So Chansey just has a lot of HP. It's inexpensive. It's a basic Pokemon. What you're able to do with this is, put all of your damage onto the Chansey, and you can use Pokemon Center because you won't have any energy attached to the Chansey. You could also put all the damage on the Chansey and use Scoop Up and bring it back to your hand, place it right back down on the bench as a fresh Chansey, denying the knockout from your opponent's Pokemon. Also kind of serves as a backup plan because you can play the Metal Chansey plan in this deck. It's not like the main idea of the deck, but it's also not a bad path to take if you need to. And then next, we're running 1 copy of Buried Fossil for our 1 copy of Aerodactyl. And the reason why we can justify the 1 and 1 is it's not, again, it's not a primary plan. It's just like a flexible thing that you can do. But Buried Fossil gets you into this Aerodactyl, which has the prehistoric memory which allows you to use the attack of a previous evolved form. Therefore, you can go from this Onix into this Steelix, and you'll have a lot more HP available for Rage, which does 10 damage plus 10 more damage for each damage counter on Onix. So you could go up to dealing 100 damage. As long as you know your opponent won't knock out the Steelix on the crackback, you can manipulate damage in such a way where it's a big advantage for a deck like yours. So that's it for the Pokemon. We're moving on into the trainers now. So I've got 3 copies of Computer Search. I was on 2. It feels better to run 3 because this is a very setup-focused deck. You need to be able to get all of your lines set up before you can just become invincible with your plan. So 3 Computer Search helps you get there. Next is your 3 copies of Scoop Up. It's part of the healing package, so you're able to pick up the Chansey from your bench after shuffling all the damage counters onto the Chansey. Pick it up, put it back down. And it's also good for getting a Pokemon stuck in the active slot out of the active slot so you can move forward with your game plan if needed. It's like an emergency button for that. Got 2 Professor Oaks. That's pretty standard. Just your discard hand, draw 7. I've got 2 Rockets Training Gym. This part of the plan is mostly because you're never ever going to pay a retreat cost. The insane retreat cost of Steelix is 4. So adding a 5th, I mean, once you've moved it to active, you're not going to be moving it out unless you're using a warp energy. So you might as well force your opponent to spend extra energy to retreat their Pokemon, or, you know, blow their warp energy on a Pokemon that shouldn't really need a warp energy. So good stadium. You can also knock your opponent's stadium out of the way with these. You know, it's just good. All around good card. Next is 2 copies of Pokemon Trader. We do have a lot of Pokemon. Once you have your first Cleffa, you really don't need the other 3. So shuffle them in and grab the other pieces that you need for your setup using these. And of course, we've got 2 copies of Fan Club for additional setup. Got to get your whole bench lined up. These are 2 energy removal. This is really just some amount of disruption. It's not really enough here to like really swing the game, but it's enough to, you know, cause a little bit of harm when you're running it in tandem with the Rockets Training Gym. So there's that. Next is 1 copy of Copycat. If your opponent is getting off a Eek consistently, it's good to also be able to benefit off of your opponent's Eeks. Next is, we've got 1 copy of Pokemon Center. I opted to go heavier on the Scoop Up because of its versatility versus Pokemon Center, which only has the one function where I move all the damage counters onto Chansey and then heal it. Versus Scoop Up, which, like I said, has the ability to remove a unwanted Pokemon out of my active slot if if it's stuck there and it has a really high retreat cost. Next is the 1 copy of Pokemon Breeder. Only 1 because we don't really need to depend on Breeder, but we could search it up with one of our 3 computer searches if need be. And then we've got our Town Volunteers for putting stuff back into the deck that might be used up that we need to get access back to. So that's it for the trainers. That's our 20. Next is the energy package. Relatively straightforward. We're starting with 3 fighting energy. We have to be able to pay for rage, so it needs to have fighting. You can also do that with rainbow energy, which is good to fuel either the fighting requirement or the metal requirement. So both of these are designated for Steelix. None of these energy are really designated for any other Pokemon unless you badly need to put an energy on a Cleffa. Next is 4 copies of metal energy. Great for Steelix. Also just fine for Cleffa. Cleffa's not dealing any damage anyway, so you might as well reduce some of the incoming damage there. Good for the backup plan of Metal Chansey. And yeah, I mean, you just want to stick as many of these as possible on your attacking Steelix to reduce the amount of incoming damage. You still, you're doing as much as you can to bolster your defense and create an invincible Steelix with the backup of that Alakazam. Next is 4 copies of Double Colorless Energy. Mostly because Steelix's tackle attack only requires a double colorless energy and just lets you consistently output 20 damage a turn. Well, it's nothing to write home about. It's still pretty easy to do. And also enables the backup plan of Metal Chansey because you're most likely going to want 1 double colorless energy and 2 metal energy if you're going to fuel up and start attacking with a Metal Chansey. Not ideal, but it's fine to get like a couple prizes towards the end if you need to with Chansey. Lastly is 3 warp energy. Like I said, it's, Steelix is very heavy and retreating it would cost 5, so this would get your Steelix out of the active slot if you still need some time to set up, and they've, used Gust of Wind to move the Steelix into the active slot, but you're not really ready for it yet. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck. If there's any questions, comments, suggestions, just put them in the comments below. Don't forget, like and subscribe. We'll have the entire tournament streaming live on Twitch, but we'll also be uploading the videos round by round in the coming weeks for the Lake of Rage event. So hopefully you guys stay tuned. And once again, that's Damage Swap Alakazam. We'll be back in a little bit with another deck profile.